right. Well, welcome everybody. If this is your first time, welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tyler Gill. I'm the relationship manager here with Intruity, and I'm joined by Andrew Barnes, the one and only. If this is your second time with us, um, we fixed a few things. Our chat now works. So some housekeeping here. If you have questions throughout the whole webinar, ask them. We'll answer them as they come along. We'll try to get everything answered and wrapped up for you. Feel free to put it in the chat. There should also be a Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen. You can put in your questions there as well, whatever you're more comfortable with doing. We'll try to get everything answered for you. So today we're going to be covering what we call the money mindset, which is going to be covering a lot of topics and some tips on ways to be kind of more financially secure and build a good foundation for yourself. So it's valuable for anybody, but a big focus is going to be on for anyone that's younger and just starting to get out into the world. And if you're like me and when you first join the workforce, you have no idea what you're doing, this is going to be good for you. So, Andrew, I will let you take it away.
Excellent. Excellent. I guess I should share the screen. So you should be able to see that, right?
Got it.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining. So great to see you all here. Like Tyler mentioned, today we're going to be talking about really just five steps of financial wisdom, 5 points of financial wisdom that I think is applicable to anyone. But as with most things financial, or really in life, the sooner you get started, kind of the better off you'll be in the future, right? So we've kind of tailored this presentation to be more towards the next generation, but again, applicable for anyone. So let's move on here. We've got, as with all things investment and financially related, we've got a disclaimer here for you. And so feel free to read through that as we're on this slide. And now that you're all done with that, I think we'll continue to move on here.
Fast readers.
Fast readers. So here's a question I want you all to consider. How comfortable are you with finances? And if we're being honest, probably none of us are at the level that we want to be. It's kind of like fitness, or if you're an athlete, there's always room to improve. But kind of to start the presentation, how do you feel that you kind of rank? Do you feel like you have it mostly together? A lot of work, do you have a lot of work to do? So really the goal of this presentation is to give you 5 steps that'll, if you just follow these 5 steps, you'll be one of the more stronger financially stronger people out there. So let's dive into those steps. So first step is easy to wrap your mind around, but hard to put in practice sometimes. Spend less than you earn. And so you do that for, your career, and you'll have saved a pretty good, chunk of money for retirement and any other goal you could really have. And so, what are the steps? Well, it helps if you create a budget, monthly budget, what comes in, and then keep track of your expenses. Track spending habits, identify and cut unnecessary expenses. That I used to do that in a spreadsheet. Nowadays, you've got apps that can kind of keep track of that for you. And in fact, we even have an app. Our financial planning partner, Right Capital, has a budgeting feature that can help track your expenses. Another way to spend less than you earn is to embrace kind of a minimalist lifestyle. We're all kind of in that rat race of life, and sometimes if you just step back and say, well, do I really need the new X? you know Probably not, but trying to find ways that maybe you can really get concrete of what's a need versus a want, and kind of make smarter decisions there. And another way is smart shopping, discounts, coupons. I know we use Amazon, and I love when something I need is on sale. I see that percent off, I get kind of fired up about that. So I think step one is very basic: spend less than you earn, and it's something that we could all be doing better. But
Cut out the Starbucks every day.
cut out the Starbucks. We love our coffee, but just something that you're mentally aware of, and kind of in the back of your mind, just trying to make smart decisions is a great first step to getting there. Step two. So I don't think we can really get through life without debt. Some people, I think, probably can. They take it to the extreme. But I think most of us along our lives are going to have to use some debt. And so step two is you need to be careful with debt. Mm-hmm. And debt can be a useful tool, but if you borrow too much, it can quickly kind of become a burden, a very heavy burden on you. And so the steps here, we want to understand the costs. So interest rates and fees can quickly add up, making debt more expensive. And so usually when you apply for a loan, unless it's a revolving loan like a credit card, but if you're taking out like an auto loan, you'll be borrowing, say, 40,000, but then right next to that, it'll say, the total cost is 55,000. And so that's what you're borrowing, the principal plus interest for the duration of the term, could be 5 years. And so, it's always good to consider the full cost, and maybe that $40,000 car that when you've got a working car, maybe you don't need to spend 55,000 to get a $40,000 car. That'll be worth, 10,000 by the time the loan's paid off, right? So understand the costs, avoid over borrowing. Taking on more debt than you can comfortably repay can lead to financial strain. And if your accounts start, if your credit cards start racking up the balance, or you start missing payments, that can really start to negatively affect your credit score. Always have a plan to repay the loan. So, debt can be very useful, but have a plan to kind of pay it off as soon as you can. Here we go. We're back to budgeting. Ensure that your budget can accommodate the payments, and hopefully, a little more each month to pay it off early. And I've found in my own experience that, there's this kind of, argument. People argue, well, how should we pay off debt? Should we pay off the highest interest first? Or should we pay off the smallest debt first? And I have personally found that paying off the smallest first kind of shows you that you can do it, kind of invigorates you a little bit to keep paying down the debts. And so that's what I would recommend. It's called the debt snowball. So you list all your debts from smallest balance first to the largest balance at the bottom, and you just focus on paying off the smallest balance. And once that smallest balance is paid off, and you're continuing to make minimum payments on all the other debts, once that smallest balance is paid off, you take what you were paying on the smallest balance and put that onto the next one on top of the minimum payments that you were paying. And so, like a snowball, you start small, and then pretty soon down the hill, it's grown and grown. And I found that to be a great way to kind of tackle your debts. And
It also helps mentally, right? Because you're getting rid of that smaller debt and you're feeling like, oh, okay, I got
right,
one
there's an essence of a like a mental burden that
down.
is lifted when say you have like five debts and then you go down to four and you were able to do that within a couple months. You know that that's
Yeah,
really good feeling.
get you fired up.
I get fired up about it. So let's continue on. Tyler, do we have any questions? Do you see any questions so far?
Not yet.
All right, excellent. So on the last slide, we talked about, what can affect your credit score. So I thought it'd be good to just kind of talk about how do we get a good credit score. Step one is you make your payments on time. If you borrow money and you say you'll pay X amount per month and you fail to meet your obligation, that's not good. So always make the minimum payments, and pay it by the due date. Don't don't be getting late fees and negative marks on your credit report. And ideally, you could pay more. I know with credit cards, if you can pay the balance before the statement closes, so say your credit card zeroed out for the month, you rack up $1,000 in charges. Well, before your statement closes, you can pay that $1,000 off. So when the statement closes, your credit shows you borrowed zero, which will boost your score instead of showing, I've got a balance of $1,000. So that's kind of something I try to do when I'm able. Reduce credit card balances. Aim to keep your credit utilization ratio below 30%. So credit utilization, that just means how much you're able to borrow compared to how much you are borrowing. So say, all your credit cards, you've got $20,000 in credit available and you only use 2,000, then you're at 10%. I said 20,000, right, Tyler?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So 20,000 total, you're using 2,000. That's a 10% utilization ratio. And so you'd be good. If your limit's 20,000 and you're like at 15,000, that's kind of a red flag and your credit's going to be affected. Limit new credit applications. So each time you apply for new credit, that's recorded on your score. And if you have too many of those, it can negatively affect your credit. So, when they ask, thank you for shopping at XYZ store, if you signed up for the credit card, you'd save $5.
Oh yeah.
Maybe maybe say, thanks, but no thanks. Because each time you open up a new account, your score is getting dinged. And a last point is keep old accounts open. There is a measurement of credit history, the amount of years on average that you have had accounts open. And I'm kind of one who, if I'm not going to use an account, I like to close it because I don't want to have to think about it. But there should be a variable of, well, if I keep this account open, will my length of credit go down a lot? And so if it's an account you've had for 10 years, maybe you want to keep that one open just to keep your credit history long. I think one thing that would have been good to put on this slide that we failed to do is ways to check your credit score. I'd recommend checking your credit score regularly. And these days, almost every bank or credit union that I've worked with has some part of their website where you can check your credit score. There's also an app called Credit Karma
Yep.
that you can look at your credit report. Yeah, I think it updates weekly. And it's just good to hop in there and see, are all the accounts that are open? Did you open those accounts? Does the information look correct? And to see what your score is and potentially ways to improve it. So let's continue on there. So we've put in a budget and we've been careful with debt. And so chances are we'll have some money left over. And so what do we do with that? Well, we need to build some liquidity and we need to start investing for the future. So when I mean liquidity, what do I mean? I mean, we need to be ready for moments when life kind of throws a curveball at us and you've got a bill for $2,000 that you weren't expecting. So how we prepare for that is with an emergency fund.
Especially when you have kids.
Especially when you have kids. That's for sure. So we'll dive into the emergency fund a little more on the next slide, but we need to be ready to handle emergencies. I used to think that the definition of success was when an emergency happened, financial success. The financially successful people are those that when an emergency happens, they don't sweat it. Because they've planned, they've prepared, and it's something that is real easy to do with just a little kind of forward thinking and preparation. Next, we need to have some opportunity utilization. So when you have cash, could be in a savings account, high yield savings, could be in a money market account. There is an essence of being able to jump on opportunities when they arise. So, potentially someone could be selling something at a really low price that you think is worth more. And if you have the cash for it, you could buy it. There's a number of opportunities, but just having some cash is good in case something comes along, an opportunity comes along, and you could take advantage of it. Wealth growth. So now we're getting more towards the investing side. Accumulating assets like real estate and investments can help increase your net worth over time. And so there are assets that appreciate over time, which means they increase in value. And then there are assets that depreciate over time. And funny enough, I found that I don't know what it is, Americans or humans or whatever, we're just kind of wired to want the assets that go down over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can we're getting back to kind of that proactive budgeting, minimalist mindset here. All these items are kind of intertwined. If you can kind of forego the want for the newest car or the newest, gadget, whatever it is, and instead put your money in things that will appreciate over time, your financial trajectory is, night and day difference. It's great.
Well, I'd like to touch on that because with COVID, we saw a lot of these markets kind of pop up, like trading cards and things that you want to think about as being assets. And so when we say accumulating assets and things like that, I don't think we're talking about going out and buying a pile of Pokemon cards and stuff like that because you think they're going to go skyrocket in value.
Right.
So you want to be smarter and not just pick stuff off eBay that you think might be the next best thing. You want to do stuff that has proven track records and things like that. This is more for the younger crowd, but
right. Yeah, there is an essence of, and I think it really, really got fired up when COVID hit. but speculation. So speculation is buying something with the expectation to sell it to someone else for a higher price. Um, it may be worth more over time, but with speculation, it's high risk. So when Tyler mentions, trading cards, or there was a big one and the name escapes me, but they were selling pictures for like $1 million, pictures of monkeys. I don't know, Tyler,
Oh,
maybe you could find what that was, but
yeah.
they were selling these pictures of monkeys for like millions of dollars. And
NFTs, right?
NFTs, yeah,
Non-fungible tokens.
yeah, tokenized
That
pictures,
was,
tokenized art.
yeah,
And I think that has largely gone away.
yeah. You don't see any of that anymore.
Yeah. So, be careful of these kind of get rich quick or overnight success, new ideas.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
It kind of boils down to the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not.
probably not true.
Yeah.
So the last point here, financial flexibility. So having your liquid assets or cash, we'll just call it cash, having the right amount of cash versus your money that's being invested is important. Um, and so that's something to be mindful of. And that difference, how much to have in cash versus invested can be different for different people. And I think that's kind of a nice segue into the emergency fund slide. So let's dive into that. Also, can we just give props to Tyler? He made all these animations. I don't know how he did it, but I think he's doing a great job. So, emergency fund. The whole point of an emergency fund is when life throws the curveballs, and it's when, not if. You've got some money set aside to be able to handle that. And if you've got a good emergency fund, all of a sudden your kind of day-to-day financial stress is reduced a lot. So, how do we start? Well, you want to start small and you want to be consistent. Setting aside a small piece of your income is the way to do it. So, if you can afford to do $100 or $200 a month, start putting $100 and $200 a month uh, in a savings account. And in a year, say you're doing 200 a month, in a year you'll have almost $2,500 in an emergency fund. A great way to make sure you be consistent is automatic savings. So I have it set in. I'm at Valley Strong. I just have Valley Strong move money every month into a savings account, so I don't even think about it, and it's great. Other than that's what we have in the slide. Don't even have to think about it. Cut unnecessary expenses. Again, these are all intertwined. Review the budget, find ways we can reduce spending, and instead put those, pay yourself first instead of paying others. Put it in your emergency fund. Sometimes we'll have windfalls, might be a tax refund or a bonus or a gift. And you might consider, taking a portion or all of it, whatever seems like the prudent thing to do, and put that in your emergency fund as well. Choosing the right account. These days, we've got a lot of access with the internet to high yield savings accounts, and there's even money market accounts. And so I know at a lot of these large banks, if you open a savings account, they'll pay you very little. And so it may be worth considering moving those emergency funds to a high yield savings or a money market account. And you might be getting these days in the neighborhood of 3.5% to 4%, which is a lot better than zero. So I would recommend, if you don't do that, it might be a good thing to consider. And set clear goals. So how much do we need in an emergency fund? And the general rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And so if you're living on, 5,000 a month, maybe 15,000 to 30, somewhere in that range would be a pretty good emergency fund. It's worth considering your risk. So say you're married and you both work, perhaps you don't need as much funds in the emergency fund because if something happened to one of your jobs, the other is still working. But if you're the only one working and it's kind of all on you, maybe you want to put a little bit more just in case something happens.
Better to be over prepared than under prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Tyler, any questions?
No, nothing yet.
Excellent.
We're answering everything.
Well, we're trying to just share some good wisdom here. Step 4, it's good to think long term and set goals. Um, I've heard that if you don't write a goal down, it's kind of a hope, or a wish. So it's not a bad idea to just, take some time and think about, you know, where you are and where you'd like to be
Hmm.
and kind of map out a path to get there. And it doesn't need to be too extremely detailed because life will throw you curveballs.
Oh, yeah.
Having a sense of a general direction, um, to where you're proactively heading towards something is is better than just kind of not having any goal at all, which I think you'll find most people don't really think long term and have set goals. So just doing that will kind of set you apart. And we've got a list of some goals here: starting a family, buying a house, planning for retirement, taking a vacation, buying a new car. These are all things, these are all great goals. And with just a little bit of planning, perhaps a little bit of budgeting, and you, you know, the what you can achieve is really sky's the limit if you're just willing to plan for it and kind of start working towards it, right? So let's see.
Andrew, we got a couple questions here. Corwin, he wants us to touch on the best way to pay off credit cards again. I think he's probably referring to the snowball
Yeah,
method.
yeah, let's see. Let me go back here. That snowball. I don't have like a white screen, do I? Hmm. Well, I'll just explain it. So, say you have 3 credit cards and you want to list them like on a piece of paper. Credit card 1 might have $500. Credit card 2 might have 2,000, and credit card 3 might have 2,500. So
We're
you're
talking about the balance that you owe on them.
the
Wouldn't-
balance you owe on them. Thank you, Tyler. Make sure I explain clearly.
oh,
Uh,
Louis here.
the so you list them out: smallest balance at top, then the largest balance at the bottom, and say the minimum payments on all of them are $50. So to pay off the first one, you're going to pay the minimum payment $50 plus whatever else you can afford. So it might be 200. So month 1 you pay 250 on credit card 1, and you pay $50 on both credit card 2 and 3 because you have to make the minimum payments on 2 and 3. So after month 1 is over, your credit card 1 is now 250 balance, $250. Credit cards 2 and 3 are whatever they are. It's going to be not much changed. So then you do another 250, and after month 2, credit card 1's gone. So you cross credit card 1 off the list. Credit card 2 becomes the top of the list. 2,000. So then in month 3, You take the $50 minimum payment plus the $250 you were paying on credit card one that's now paid off. So now you're paying $300 towards credit card two, and in something like 300, 2,000, something like 8 months, 7, 8 months. If I'm doing the math right, credit card two will be gone. Then you'll take 350 a month that you were paying on credit card two down to credit card three. So I hope that explains it. I wish I could have drawn it out, but I don't know if I've got a whiteboard somewhere where I can draw it out. But if if we still have questions on that, I can absolutely, have a phone call or email and try to explain it further for you.
Yeah. We do have a follow-up to that from Corwin as well. If you want to stay on the credit
Sure.
here. Uh, he wants to know, relating to building credit, does one pay the balance on a bill or pay the balance and the current charges not yet billed in order to boost a credit score?
Yeah. So credit cards will have a statement balance. So it might be helpful if I dive into kind of the timing. So when you open up a credit card, day one, you have access to, let's call it, $1,000, and you can start racking up charges. So at the end of that month, say you racked up $500 of charges, the month will close. They'll send you a statement with the statement balance of all the charges that you racked up that month, and they'll give you a month to pay that off. So there's kind of 2 months between when you charge something and when it needs to be paid off, or at least a payment made towards it. Um, Paying off the balance of your cards prior to that statement close date will boost your credit. Absolutely. Because when they close your statement, the credit card companies, they send the balance owed to the credit bureaus. And if your credit report shows a $0 balance owed, or maybe it's $100 or small amount, that boosts your score. So what I try to do is, and sometimes you can call the credit card company and say, hey, I get paid on the 31st or the end of the month, whatever. Can you make my statement close date like the 5th of the month? So that gives me some time to get paid, pay off the balance, and then the statement closes. And just making sure, or at least trying to be proactive about paying off your credit card balances before the statement closes, is a good habit, and it shows very low balance on your credit cards, and it boosts your score. So I try to pay them off before the statement closes, and I have that statement balance due uh, at the end of the month. Does that make sense? I hope that answered.
Awesome. Thanks for the questions. Good questions.
I
And
feel like
on the
time.
topic of debts and interest rates, all that stuff, we have one more question. This is from Sam. He
Sure.
wants to know your opinion on financing cars.
My opinion. Well, I think you know you have to go into it with your eyes open, right? If you finance a car, it's not bad to finance a car. You may very well need a new car, or at least, a better car, or whatever the case may be. But you need to understand that the car is a depreciating asset. So if it's worth 40 grand a day, it's probably going to be worth half that in a few years. Um,
Especially depending on what brand it is.
well, depending on what brand. And I think COVID kind of blew that up a little bit. So I don't know if the market's kind of gone back to the way it was pre-COVID.
Mhm.
But generally cars depreciate. Um, so you need to kind of have that in mind. The other thing in mind is, if you take out a loan, let's say $40,000, the amount you'll pay could be 50 over the duration of the loan. So we just need to keep in mind, it's kind of this avoid over borrowing and plan for repayment.
Mhm.
Right. So we need to go into it with our eyes open. I'm buying a depreciating asset. I'm paying more for it than it's worth by financing it. But I mean, it could be great. It could be that, you know, you're running a business. Say you're like a tradesman and you need a truck that's reliable. Well, that could very well be a great business decision, financing that truck instead of, say you're driving some 20-year-old truck that's always breaking down and you're missing out on work opportunities. It could be great. So I just would advise you to go in there, enter into the transaction, knowing that it's a depreciating asset. And by financing it, you're paying more over time. So
Awesome.
I
Thanks,
hope
Sam.
I hope that answers the question. So let me jump back here. I think we did that one. Here we go. So we covered step one, spend less than you earn. Step two, be careful with debt. Step three was work on liquidity and building assets. Step four was plan and kind of have a long-term mindset. Step five, we need to remember that any amount of wealth that we're able to accrue, we can't take it with us at the end of our lives. So what do we do? Well, that's where legacy planning comes in. So making sure, especially if you have kids, you have a will and an estate plan in place. Simple thing is just setting up beneficiaries on your accounts. Should anything happen to you, where do you want your money to go? You would be surprised how many people, I mean, there are stories after stories of people who have been very successful and saved millions of dollars, and yet they never thought to check their beneficiary designation that they made before they were married. you know and so stories of someone's sibling getting millions of dollars when they were married and had kids for 50 years, and the spouse and family getting zero. So it's important to check your beneficiaries periodically. And I think a really big one is giving back through charitable giving. And giving back, I think, making smart decisions with your money is good and it gets you in a better place financially. But being able to give with kind of, money comes in to your account and you kind of hold it with an open hand and you let some of it go through and you give it, that that's pretty fun. And it adds a lot of joy. And it might not, giving back looks different for different people. For some, it's, writing a check and giving financially. Others, it's volunteering, helping actually do what the charity is there to do. And so I think, having a mindset of let's try to make smart decisions, let's try to build some wealth to benefit me and the people that come behind me, but also kind of balancing that out with this idea of ultimately it's mine for a time, right? And we're not going to take it with us. So let's continue to move on here. I've got a slide here that says how we can help in any of these areas. So if you don't know, we are a registered investment advisor and we have a focus on financial planning. So that's that first bullet point, personalized financial planning. We can help you try to map out your goals and see what your income is, your expenses, see how we can save more, see how we can potentially invest perhaps better or in a way to better increase the probability that you'll reach those goals. Debt reduction and credit building strategies. We could talk about one thing we find that a lot of people seem to find themselves in a situation. The situation that we come across a lot is people will have a debt, say it's like $50,000 solar loan or whatever, and they'll have $200,000 in the bank earning zero. And the solar loan's like 5%. So we say, what would you think about just paying off that solar, right? And sometimes just having someone to guide you in that regard can help a lot. And so that's, debt reduction, credit building strategies, investment management. I think that's a big item that we help people with. Really figuring out what are your goals and how do you want to, what can we do to best put you on the path to achieve those goals in a way that you're comfortable, because investments can go up and down, and we want to make sure we can smooth out the ride so that when we're kind of in a downturn or a market storm, that you're still feeling comfortable. Retirement and long-term planning, that's really that goal setting. What are your goals and how best can we achieve them? And legacy and estate planning. So we're able to connect you with an attorney, an estate attorney that can help you do estate planning. But coming soon, we will be able to, we'll have an online portal where you can put together your estate plan yourself. So that's coming soon. I don't know if I can share too many details about that yet, but it is a part of our business where we're trying to expand and be an option in the marketplace that might be a better fit for kind of the average person out there. So I think, any other questions, Tyler?
No, we are looking good.
So the key takeaways, excuse me, spend less than you earn, be careful with or avoid debt, build up some cash and build up some investments, set goals and think long term. And remember, at the end of the day, it's yours for a time, and you're not going to take it with you. So it's important to do some planning. And it can be a huge benefit to work with a professional. And I'll say, any ways that we could help you perhaps further, since I know a lot of you we're already working with, or if you'd like to get started and we're not working together, let us know. We are here to help and help you make decisions that will benefit you and your family for years to come. So I think with that, we've got a question slide. Any kind of final questions, thoughts? Let us know.
Yep, and if we can't get it covered in this webinar, by all means, everyone's welcome to give us a call, email us, you can text our number. Be happy to answer and help you out. Yeah, just text the office number.
So I think we'll wait for any last questions.
Yeah.
And really, I want to say thank you for choosing to spend 45 minutes with us on this Wednesday. Any other ideas for a webinar? This webinar topic came from a client of ours. And so if you have a topic that you'd like us to talk about, let us know, and we'll put a whole presentation together. Looks like something came in on chat. Tyler, did you see that?
Yeah, everyone said it was great info, and we're happy to do it for you guys. Like Andrew said, anything that you think that would be a great topic, questions, things like that, let us know, and we'll do our best to put something together for you guys. This was a fantastic idea that we really enjoyed putting together and going through with you. So we look forward to the next one. Absolutely.
Oh, and we will be posting a recording. So
Mm.
if there's anyone where you feel that they would benefit from watching this, we'll have it recorded and you could just send them the link.
We'll have it recorded and we will let you all know when it's up and posted, and we'll send you the link so you can send it to whoever and come back to it and watch it whenever you might need to. So yeah, we'll be on our website, our insights page.
Excellent. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I think what we'll do is we'll call it here and thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at the next one.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.